Mm.
Hey Ryan,
Mm.
guess what?
What?
Boo!
Oh my God! No!
Oh no!
No! No!
I hope I didn't
No!
startle
No!
you too much. I'm going to need you very coherent for what's to come because it's our Infinity Rewatch Halloween special. Can you do an evil Vincent Price laugh for me, or just an evil supervillain laugh for me? Yeah. There you go, kids. Record that. You got yourselves a free ringtone.
That's right. There you go. Yeah, Halloween. We finally made it all the way around to a Halloween episode. I can't even remember when like the first day we started. I feel like it was like a spring day. So this may be like our second Halloween episode, but it's hard to keep track, to be honest with you.
It is hard to keep track. I'm pretty sure you're right, though. I'm pretty sure it's our second Halloween episode. The first one was something with villains. I think we did something like our top villains we want to see, or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, top villains we wanted to see in the MCU.
Yes,
Yes.
that's one we
Yeah.
recorded at your place,
Hmm.
and I think that's when you brought up Dracula, and it's now we're kind of halfway there. But yeah, it's our second big Halloween special, and for the first time ever, Marvel had a Halloween special, so it kind of worked out really fortuitously for us, and I'm really excited for this whole special because Halloween, Ryan. I don't know about you, but Halloween just fills me with all the feels. I really love this time of year. This October, I have gone overboard. I every day in October so far, I have watched at least one either Halloweeny movie or scary movie. And I'm still keeping up to that. After we finish recording tonight, I'm gonna put something on because I haven't done my October 27th yet. But you are the biggest fan in the world of horror. You cannot stop talking about horror.
Oh yeah, no, I can't stand horror. I really can't. I don't like it at all. Unless it's like an action comedy horror, some type of action element to it. My best example, like I guess my favorite horror movie, if you will, is either Army of Darkness, which is like just buckle up because that's just a mystical horror movie film experience. And then my other one would definitely be like Ghostbusters, and that's about as horror as I get.
That's as horror as you get. What's the
Yeah.
scariest movie you've ever seen?
Okay, there's kind of like a two answers to this. Is For me is Paranormal Activity has gotten me the biggest response out of me in terms of like haunting my dreams and nightmares. Um, and then the second kind of like just creepy film is Exorcism, the last Exorcism of Emily Rose. That messed me up too.
I remember that one. I
Mhm.
think I agree with you, man. I'm in the exact same boat. The Paranormal Activity one was the scariest one I've ever seen. I lost way too much sleep from that movie, and I
Yeah.
never went back to that well again. I love me a good horror, but I do draw the line, and the line starts right around there. So
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing, like, because like for me, it's how they get you. It's how they make you think about dark areas in your house and everything. And
exactly.
my old house is got a lot of long hallways, but at the end of the long hallways is like a mirror. So you'll see like a shadowy figure when you turn. Because I don't know if you remember my old house, but it had like the stairs to the side door, and then you go up another set of stairs, and that leads you
Uh-huh.
to the kitchen slash my parents' room,
Yeah.
right? So on both ends of the hallway, there are mirrors. And at night, you can't really see really well. So it's just like you just see a shadowy reflection. And then the other worst part about it is like when you hear the possession happening or like when the demon's in the room kind of thing, they kind of have the same noise as a furnace turning on. And I just so happened to sleep beside a furnace that would happen to go on during the witching hour. So yeah, I that first night I could not sleep and thus watched 3 Disney movies back to back. None of your like I'm just going to randomly watch a Disney movie. No, we're talking Hercules, Aladdin, and The Lion King to get over that. We're talking top 3 quality
Ooh, those are good ones. I watched Dumb and Dumber after Paranormal Activity. I
here.
can't. I literally came home and I was like shaking, and I'm like, I need to see something that'll make me laugh and not feel unsafe in my own home.
Yeah.
Who put those mirrors in that hallway? That I feel like that's a recipe for disaster.
That's my mom's design. She always experimented with like what was trending and all that stuff. And the other thing I have to say with paranormal activity and like those kind of horror movies, I hate horror movies that not only make you insecure about your own place, but like that you can't physically attack. Like a slasher, I have a chance to survive. I can outmaneuver Jason. I can maybe drop kick the guy. It's like wrestling a bear or outrunning a bear. You could potentially do it. You never know. And like, but Freddy Krueger, can you really fight Freddy Krueger? Because like he's in your brain, right? Like when you're sleeping.
Hell, the nerdy kid turned into a wizard to fight Freddy Krueger, and it worked for like 5 seconds, and then Freddy's like, you know what? Nope. It's not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. You can't fight certain things. Oh my God, it's Isabella. Hello.
So hold on.
Oh yeah,
Beautiful.
Isabella's got to come back because she likes scary things.
You love scary movies. The viewers want to know, what was your question? It was like, what's the
scariest movie you've ever seen?
What's the scariest movie you've ever seen?
Oh man.
And you can't say Dumbo because we both already picked Dumbo.
What we're considering scary, because there's like reality, which can be terrifying. Like there's this really messed up French movie, I think it's called Inside, and it's about a woman who loses her baby in a car accident. So then she goes insane and hunts down and tries to cut a baby out of another pregnant woman's belly with a pair of scissors. It's really good, but it's terrifying because that's something that could actually happen. Yeah. The Loved Ones is an Australian horror movie about a crazy guy and his daughter that keep like human zombies, Jeffrey Dahmer style, in their basement. That one's really good. And The Babadook was really terrifying. Like I really like that one. But also The Conjuring is really good. Like anything where they're like they pull at your feet while you're asleep, and that's how the ghost gets you. It's just like, oh my God, no. I love all different kinds of horror. Some are more disturbing than others.
She loves it. She is a horror fan. Although
Ryan doesn't like it, I have to watch it by myself.
Which is
Ryan,
worse for her.
You have to watch Midnight Mass, Ryan.
Midnight Mass is
Hereditary. Have you seen Hereditary?
Yes, I have seen Hereditary.
Yes.
I explained the scene to Ryan in the car with the asthma attack, and he was like,
"Oh God, yeah, no, that's not gonna happen." I actually, another favorite horror movie of mine is Ready or Not. That's a great movie.
That's a fabulous movie. That's not really a horror. It's more like
it's an action horror. That's what I call it.
Comedy horror.
Anyways.
Yeah, Ready or Not's cool. She fights the devil at the end, so it's pretty much a horror movie.
Like, here's the thing. If you wanted to do a horror show, you should do it with Isabella, because her vocabulary of horror movies is very far-reaching, even to international movies. So
and international horror movies they're next level. Like the one I told you to tell Isabella about, Speak No Evil, the one that's on Shudder. That is I believe, Danish movie, either Danish or Dutch, but it is like you are not going to be thinking about anything else for days. Not in the same way Paranormal Activity messes with you, just in a different way. Very different
exactly.
Way. And I also because it's our Halloween show. I was telling everybody about it and making sure everybody listened, because I like people getting into the Halloween specials. And I wanted to give another shout out to another student of mine tonight, who asked for a shout out. She's actually not in any of my classes this year, but I've had her before in a class. She's awesome. Her name is Phelan. Phelan, this is your shout out, and pay attention. Pay attention, because we are going to teach you what to do if you encounter a werewolf. And I mean, granted, Phelan's pretty tough. I bet she would probably just kick a werewolf's butt if she met one in real life. But just in case, you're going to want to know what to do if that happens, because we are going to get into that tonight. Ryan is a werewolf. He's going to change on camera. It's happening. And we're also breaking new ground here today, right? Yeah, you're already halfway there. We're breaking new ground because this is actually the first podcast ever that you can listen to in black and white.
Oh man, well, that's pretty. First of all, I mean, that's huge. I didn't even think it could be done physically, but that's pretty amazing. We made the jump to Technicolor, but now audio-wise, we made the jump back to black and white. That's huge.
Right.
I also realized we have Rebel Scum Podcast in the chat there, saying Andrew is scarier than any werewolf.
he's only saying that because I frightened him today
Yeah.
by yelling "boo" really loudly.
Yeah.
That's why.
And Rebel Scum also said, Conjuring and Sinister scared me as a kid. Frogs scared me.
Oh, Conjuring never could do it. Neither could I with Sinister. Those Conjuring sounds amazing though, Ryan, and I wish I could see it because it's literally a shared cinematic universe of horror. And they have built this really cool world based around this couple who goes and hunts paranormal stuff. And I want to get into it because it sounds so fun, but I know the plot of Conjuring 1. I know what it's like, and it is very much on the other side of that line I've drawn for myself. So I gotta take a step back and just, tell Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga that I'm sorry, but I can't join them on their spooky adventures. I just can't.
Yeah.
But at least one spooky adventure that I can go on, and I know you can go on, is called Werewolf-By-Night.
Werewolf-By-Night.
That's the actual way. That's how Stan Lee pronounced it.
All right, so let's get into this. This is Marvel's first special presentation, and this is one thing I do want to bring up before we deep dive into the lore and like the characters and stuff like that. Is first of all, special presentation. So it was about just under an hour, if I'm not mistaken, just in and around an hour. Apparently, there was a lot of positive feedback about this show. Not only just the story and quality of content, but the idea of special presentations.
Yeah.
And we talked about this briefly before, but this is now a good chance to talk about it right now, which is is special presentations going to dominate more than the shows now? Because if you think about it, the shows could be a little bit more focused now on an event that involves characters, or and you could leave the special presentations to kind of like an origin story, or like like a character spotlight kind of thing.
Yeah, they're still a big question mark. And you're right, there was this whole hype around this being the first one, the same way there was hype around WandaVision, because we didn't know what does a Marvel show look like. Same way there was even hype around Rogue One, because we didn't know what does a non-saga Star Wars film look like. It was just this big mystery of like, is this going to work, and how could it possibly work? So the fact that this Werewolf-By-Night presentation works, now it's begging that question. What are we going to see? We still, like, we have a baseline now, but is the Guardians Holiday Special going to feel and look just radically different? Is that one going to be like 20 minutes long? Like, we really have no idea. We need a few more of these under our belt. We got to collect like 6 of them, like Infinity Stones, before we can fully snap our fingers and say, this is what a Marvel special presentation is. But if they're anything like Werewolf-By-Night, then, to quote Clark Griswold, I think we're all in for a very special treat.
No, absolutely. We are. I think we are in for a very special treat, to be honest with you. I think that there is rumors currently that they're going to do a Silver Surfer special presentation.
Yeah.
So right now there seems to be a lot of positive momentum in this category, but bringing it back to Werewolf-By-Night, is that I like that it was an event focused very specifically, a story very specifically focused around an event, and the event was this giving away of the Bloodstone family diamond, or like the Bloodstone ruby, that is like powered the Bloodstone family for so long, and it's brought out all your best hunters for this event. It's even brought out the classic Elsa Bloodstone, who is a big character in the comics, who did a remarkable job in this show. I absolutely loved her. And then we also have the werewolf himself from the comics as well, and a couple surprises, but a big surprise really in the kind of the antagonist in a way of speaking, which was really cool. But yeah, so this special presentation I think was a fun exploration of literally just focusing on an event. It didn't need, I don't think you need to do, I think the best part about Marvel is you should have the freedom not even needing to do like a 9-episode adventure where you can do, if you can do, maybe a mini series of 6 episodes and make every episode very specific and like really build out the stories, then you can do some really cool stuff. Even two episodes of an hour long each would be really cool. Maybe like a 2-parter, like that kind of thing, like end on a cliffhanger and then the second episode resolves everything in a beautiful way. That would be really cool as well. But I really did like this format. I really thought this was a really smart way to do something very experimental. And this is what really sets up Marvel, right? Like Iron Man came out, Iron Man was super experimental. Then they kind of had a formula going. They got Hulk going, they got Thor, they got Captain America, and then Avengers comes out, super experimental. A kind of change in the formula, doing something they've never done before, and it's a hit. Then they kind of, get back into their formula a little bit. They really needed to change it up. So what do? They drop in Winter Soldier. That really shakes things up in terms of how they do suspense. This kind of political thriller narrative, that kind of thing. And then they do it again with Guardians by going way out there and just doing something so different. And this felt like that kind of project. It's just, it's one of those projects where you're not sure how it's going to work, because Werewolf-By-Night he's a character in the comics and he's got some stories that are good, but in the end, he's not as strong as a character as, like, say, Elsa Bloodstone, or say like I'll even throw it out there, like doing something like oh my god, I'm trying to think of a random character that would be like Shang-Chi, like something like that, you know what I mean? Like those characters have big stories, but Werewolf-By-Night has a couple of big stories and has been present throughout the comics, but not so much. Even our main antagonist Man-Thing is like a huge character, and so you're not sure if this is going to work, but leave it to Marvel to just really surprise and delight us with this project.
Yeah, maybe that's why it worked, because Werewolf-By-Night is that kind of character. Because he's the kind of character where it's like he doesn't really have huge events and things, and his stories were just sort of sporadically fine. So this is the best way to introduce him. This is not the best way to introduce, I don't know, Miss Marvel. We needed a different way to meet her.
Exactly, yeah.
So maybe this was for the best, and now it still kind of poses that question, like what kind of characters would benefit from this? And to kind of snipe back at that rumor, I don't know if Silver Surfer works for this, because he's such a big character and because he's tied to such big things. I mean, if they're going to resort to doing these instead of doing solo movies, I think that might be to their detriment. I don't know, because it might take away some special movie moments. I just don't want them. I still want there to be more movies than anything else.
Well, I think personally solo films can be good and all, but overall I think ensemble pieces do a lot better than your traditional solo movie. I mean, even Shang-Chi, though it's his story, it's still an ensemble experience. You know what I mean? Like it's still about a group that he ends up forming, as opposed to his own just like standalone, me versus the enemy kind of story.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I hear you though on the detriment side. Like, yeah, I kind of can agree with that. But Silver Surfer is a complex character. He is not, he is not an easy character to do, in terms of like just jumping in and seeing where it goes. Like they've tried it. They tried bringing him into a movie and it did not go well. I mean, they had all the right ingredients. They had Lawrence Fishburne play the voice of Silver Surfer, which was brilliant because he has that kind of thing there. So Rebel Scum Podcast says it was a perfect one-off, perfectly timed out with Halloween and the perfect length. They allowed it to be what it needed to be without forcing their hand at anything. Then we have Kicking Air, who I would say is a new viewer, saying these would work well for smaller characters that might have been lingering, that might have lingering plot points out there. I could buy a one-off like this that explains what happens to Agatha. Yeah, no, exactly. I agree. I think actually Kicking Air and Rebel Scum, like, I think we're on the right page here. I think for a character like Werewolf-By-Night or like Agatha, yeah, small one-off, nice and neat little package. You don't need to expand out on it is a good idea.
Yes. In fact, a character that I can think of right off the bat that we've already met who would be perfect to tell their story through this, because honestly, it's a character I don't really care about their story, is Star Fox.
Oh, yes.
This is a perfect place to tell Star Fox's story. And, one of my students, Nathan Arabian, says, I think this format could work for some big characters, including Silver Surfer. So Nathan's on the other page. He wants to see some Silver Surfer in this format.
I do support Nathan's comment, and I'm kind of on that side, because as long as you focus on events, not the characters as much. If you like Silver Surfer, you could do if it's like the event of Galactus coming and making him Silver Surfer. You know what I mean? Like, don't go into the beginning, middle, and end of the Silver Surfer, because you can't do that in a movie or a series. But you could do it in like that, like this event created Silver Surfer. Boom. And then literally leave it at that.
Bingo. If it's Norrin Rad and like he's making his deal, he wants to save Shellaball and he wants to do all that stuff, that is a perfect place to put that, because when he does show up in Fantastic Four 2, The Revenge of the Christine Everhart, which we all know is coming, they don't have to waste like 2 minutes of exposition being like, who are you? And Silver Surfer turning to the audience and saying, I am from a planet, blah, 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 because we've all already seen that. And he can literally hand Reed Richards and Sue Storm a remote control and a TV with Disney Plus, and he can tell them, you can watch my special presentation, which is now available on Disney Plus. And we'll actually watch them watching it.
And that's my point, though, is that, like, What If could have been a special presentation. Like, because What If, to me, didn't need the entire series. Like, because it just kind of felt like a run-on joke of, like, why is the rum gone? Whereas, if you focus on the event itself and, like, get down to the nitty-gritty, which was, like, Uatu trying to debate how to, like, break his oath without breaking his oath, then that to me would have been well deserving of a special presentation, not an entire, whole season on like giving me little like, party Thor and just weird jokes that just don't land for me. Like, to me, I think I think there was 3 episodes out of like 8 that I just like I actually really liked.
Don't pretend you don't have a party Thor tattoo right now.
I definitely don't.
Don't act like it's not there. I gave you the tattoo. Okay.
Rebel Scum agrees with me on that. Thank you. That makes it. Doesn't that make it does that make me like definitively right because Rebel Scum has agreed with my statement?
It makes you definitively canon in the Star Wars universe, which I am still not, because James and Brock have not given me canon status. I'm still considered legends, just like Darth Nihilus and Mara Jade. I gotta hang out with them.
Well, hold on. So Rebel Scum says Silver Surfer could work as a special presentation depending on its storyline, not about the character, about the story. Exactly. I think we've established exactly what a special presentation needs to be. It needs to be event based, and that's what brings us back to Werewolf-By-Night. It's perfect because they tell you everything you need to know, but it's about the event of the Bloodstone. That's what it's all about.
Yes, and now, if and when the Bloodstone shows up again and the concept of hunters shows up again and Jack shows up and Man-Thing shows up, we're not going to be scratching our heads because we've been told what this all is. So
exactly.
It's a beautiful thing. And so is this special presentation. Turns out Michael Giacchino can direct, Ryan.
Oh man, can he ever? Oh my God, was I moved during that whole thing. Whew.
Wow. Not only is he a talented composer, he can work some magic behind the camera. I am constantly floored, Ryan, by the fact that, like, I'm constantly of two minds. I keep being made overjoyed by the fact that Michael Giacchino understands what classic Hollywood scores are supposed to sound like.
Mhm.
And on the other hand, I'm constantly heartbroken by the fact that Michael Giacchino is the only composer left in the world, it seems, who understands what classic Hollywood scores are supposed to sound like. I wish he just like opened a school and taught people how to do classic Hollywood music so that we wouldn't lose that kind of music.
That's fair. That's fair. Oh man.
It's just sad because nobody else does it except him, and I don't understand why.
It's true. It's true. But okay, but first of all, yes, let's focus on the directing here. And like, oh my god, first of all, I love that it was black and white.
Mm-hmm. Just like this podcast.
Yeah, just like this audio podcast.
The audio. If you're listening only, you are experiencing it in black and white today, which is a first.
So a couple of things. First of all, Kicking Air points out, did I miss any clues as to where Werewolf-By-Night takes place within the MCU? It's current. It's literally happening like right now. Like it's taking place after the events of Infinity War, all that stuff, because we're in the multiverse saga. And there's a key element to this whole thing that lies in our character Man-Thing. He is a multiversal guardian. He actually can travel from one place to another through the Nexus Gate, which I believe is what was shown in WandaVision when she goes into the house, Agatha's house, and she gets down to the labyrinth.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. So we'll be seeing him again. Kang might be very interested to know where Man-Thing is.
Yeah. I think Kang would definitely like to know where Man-Thing is. I mean, but what kind of confuses me is Kang. What's limiting Kang from jumping from point to point? Because he's a very powerful, futuristic being. So what is limiting him, or why does he? Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. As we're I know we're all over the place tonight, but because we got a nice active audience tonight, it's going to be all over the place a little bit. So Kang is a being from the future. He's from the 40th century or something like that. And I don't know what's limiting him. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. The Ant-Man Quantumania trailer dropped out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting it, but I'm kind of getting it now. It's like, okay, Black Panther's coming out, so might as well drop the Ant-Man trailer to hype up the next big film that's going to be coming out. So, but I don't know why he needs Ant-Man's help, but this could be a very similar Mysterio effect that No Way Home had, which was Mysterio like appears as a ally and then completely flips the script later.
Actually, I'm glad you brought up the Ant-Man trailer because I totally forgot. But there is a big correlation between the Ant-Man trailer and something that happens at the very end of Werewolf-By-Night.
Ooh, good tie-in. I love it already.
So that Ant-Man trailer, it gives us what it gives us. We see Kang, we see the quantum realm and all that stuff, and it's great, it's cool. We see them all. The choice of song in the Ant-Man trailer was "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road" by Elton John. A very strange choice of song.
Well played, sir. Well played. You don't even need to finish what you're gonna say.
We are being taken to Oz. There's something happening here. They're using this travel to Oz as a metaphor for traveling through the multiverse because it makes sense. Because one of the most baffling things about Werewolf-By-Night, the first time I watched it, was why are we playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow and using the same exact font for the words "the end" when we close on this picture here? And lo and behold, here comes this trailer with another Wizard of Oz reference in it. So if Kang is the man behind the curtain, if he is the Wizard of Oz, which it seems likely he kind of is, he's controlling all these things. In the original books, anyway, as far as I can remember, the wizard got to Oz by crashing in a hot air balloon, and he just wanted to get back home. So if Kang got stuck in our universe and wants to get back into the multiverse, whatever, it's kind of fits, doesn't it? It all kind of seems like it fits, and it fits the character, and it would be something he would want to be doing, is getting back home. And if he has to take down universes to get there, he will.
Well, if you know your Kang lore well enough, then you know his century collapsed because of a mistake in the timeline, and he has to correct it. And in order to do that, he at first enlists the aid of Avengers to say, "Hey, there's a threat coming to your planet that will upset my timeline." And I will give you all my technology and you will let me rule and I will protect your world from devastation. And then he shows the Avengers what's happened, and there's a split in the sun because of the events of Secret Invasion. And so there are a lot of domino pieces already set up, which is we got Secret Invasion coming up around the corner as well. It will be happening in the spring. That's our next MCU show. Aside from your Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which technically doesn't have anything to do with MCU in any way, shape, or form. However, so yeah, we have Black Panther, then we have Guardians Holiday Special, then in the spring we get Quantumania, and we get Secret Invasion. So that's like our kickoff, which is going to be epically awesome. So anyway, yeah. So yes, there's a lot of dominoes being set up right now. That's kind of interesting that you bring that up, right? So Kang could get stuck because he can't go back, and he's not quite where he needs to be. And then Ant-Man might be the guide that leads him back home, that kind of thing. That could be interesting. And then there's the flip of the script. And also we have to remember that MODOK is also in Quantumania.
Yeah, he is. We didn't see him in those trailers yet, but he's coming, and I hope he's really big. And I
think they're gonna edit. I think they're gonna edit him a little bit because apparently the concept art that they released, there was a pretty negative reaction to what he looked like.
It was just ugly Sonic with a jewel on his head. I wish Gilbert Gottfried was still alive and that he was the voice of MODOK, because I think that's just a match made in heaven. So there's all these parallels we can draw, but let's dial it back here. Let's talk about Bloodstone Manor and the beautiful Gothic atmosphere that this special grabs us and dunks us in it like we're a teabag, and we just steep in this Gothic horror atmosphere with all these monsters on the walls, and even the opening written in that book. We see some Nosferatu-looking things. They
confirmed Dracula, by the way. That's full on Dracula. They confirmed. They confirmed vampires are real.
There we go. The vampires confirmed. So Dracula's probably coming. And then we meet these hunters, and I don't think we caught any of their names in the special, but I was giving them my own nicknames in my head based on how they looked. And the nicknames I gave them were Gimli, Son of Glowing, Great Value Blade, Crossbow McGee, and Ziggy Stardust.
I think I know which one Ziggy Stardust.
Tell me and everybody else about these hunters, Ryan. Who are they, and what are their real names?
So to be fair, actually, I looked up the hunters, and most of them aren't really characters. Like, they're just kind of made up for the whole thing. So there's nothing really to pay attention to. What is to pay attention to, though, is the lore building, because they talk about, like I mentioned, previously mentioned, they did talk about vampires. They also talked about Ulysses Bloodstone, who is an actual comic book character. He's a very old Marvel comic book character who had a very small spotlight for a bit in the kind of what they call the golden age of comics, which takes place roughly around like the 50s, 60s to 70s. And then Silver Age is like, oh, that's my favorite. But in the Silver Age, they reinvented the character, and then they gave him his daughter, which is all true. So most of the things that they talked about her in the show, she did abandon his training to get trained by other people. And she she wants the bloodstone because again, she wants to go off to do her because she wants to learn how to better equipped to deal with monsters as opposed to just fight them. So she wants to take a more diplomatic approach, to which Ulysses Bloodstone was like, nah, you need to kill them all. And that's why there's like they have like the blood records of like, or sorry, the records of like how many monsters people have destroyed and all that stuff, and how it's a big competition and that sort of thing. But the hunters, there was really no, as far as the research I've done, there was no confirmation of any characters that stood out. I looked up the names and everything. Yeah, nothing really there. Another fun fact, though, on the wall, they actually show the head of the Wendigo, which is a big, big character in the Marvel comics. Wendigo fought the Hulk, fought Wolverine many a times.
I love the Wendigo.
Yeah, there's actually, so the Wendigo has a lot of good ties to and I think they confirmed Sasquatch, which was a Canadian mutant as well. So that was another big one. So there's a lot of comic book lore like really surrounding the Bloodstone Manor, which was really cool. There was a lot of those moments of myself just going like, oh my god, like that's really cool. The Wendigo was like the big one for me because like Wendigo's a big character in the comics.
Yeah, I remember that being my favorite part of the Wolverine Xbox game when Wendigo shows up. And he also showed up in the Guardians game. You go to a planet that's full of Wendigos. Do you remember that part?
Yes.
Like you're randomly on this planet, and then Drax is like, I hear something, and you just hear the Wendigo. Like, terrifying.
Well, Wendigo, actually, my favorite interpretation of it, of Wendigo, was in Wolverine's Revenge, which was the Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube port. Great game. If you can get your hands on it, it is like the Metal Gear Solid of Wolverine games. It is really good.
Just good luck beating Lady Deathstrike. That's all I can say.
Yeah, good luck with that. So there's a lot of Marvel lore here, and it's interesting because Kicking Air is bringing up a good question, which is what is the Hunter stance on many aliens that are now on Earth in the MCU? So here's the deal. They see aliens as monsters. It's all different. It's all the same language, but said in different ways. Alien is essentially how do they say it? Like, it's like, look at it this way. There's Eternals and there's Deviants. So when the Eternals movie came out, Eternals are like the perfect beings. They're your gods. They're like your Zeuses, your Hercules, your Thors, your, all those kind of things. Deviants are monsters who have godlike powers, but they were a mutation, right? So the same thing goes with aliens to the hunters. The hunters will probably see aliens as like, oh man, if I saw Korg, that's a monster to me. So I need to thus destroy that monster. But because Elsa Bloodstone reigns supreme, probably the hunter stance on it will be different. Now, in the comics, there's a lot going on. Like this, the Bloodstone family, hunters in general, when the Cold War happened, aliens were invading, and then what happened was the government was kind of like, okay, we need freaks to deal with freaks. That was kind of the government's position on it. And so the government acquired hunters such as Ulysses Bloodstone to go around and start taking out like vampires and all sorts of things. So that's what it was kind of like a Cold War going on underneath, like just a regular Cold War. And like, so they were sending out all the hunters to do it. Now in the comics, essentially the story of Elsa Bloodstone, if you want to read her comics, is like super parallel to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Same idea. If you've seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you've read Elsa Bloodstone comics. It's like that close to the whole thing.
Now, that's interesting because that tells us a lot about Elsa and her character that the special didn't tell us. Because from what you're saying, she wants this Bloodstone because she wants to move the whole concept of hunters out of its very old-fashioned xenophobic kind of way of thinking. And
yes, exactly, 100%.
Yeah, and we get that with Jack and with Ted, who I will probably not call Ted anymore because Man Thing is a much cooler name. But
So cool.
she experiences firsthand, like, hey, yeah, we don't have to hunt all of these guys. There probably are some nice people amongst these monsters.
Well, and Ted's or Man Thing is a victim of circumstance. If you actually read his story in the comics, and I think they kind of teased it a little bit. His story is not pretty. But we'll get into that. I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so the hunters, you're like, you nailed it to the wall. And it's funny too, because the comic book writers who helped kind of make Elsa Bloodstone who she is today, they said they never watched Buffy or anything, and it's just how the character turned out.
Sure, they did.
Sure. But yeah, no, exactly. So kicking air, you bring up a good question, and it also brings us to our conversation about the hunters. So the hunters are like the old-fashioned, like, we need to get rid of anyone who's not an Eternal, if you think about it that way. Is like, essentially, if they're not human, then they shouldn't be there. And that's why Jack is kind of they don't really know he's the werewolf kind of thing. They just assume he's a really good hunter. And of course, as they found out that he is a werewolf, then and because of his reaction to the stone, and then you kind of see that they're like, oh, he's not one of us, so he must be eliminated. And of course, right. Elsa is not about that life.
No, I mean, these people are bloodthirsty to begin with. They're ready to kill each other for the stone. And that whole, the concept of this hunt, this special sacred hunt where you're not just hunting to hunt a monster, you're hunting to become entitled to the bloodstone because Ulysses died and it needs a new owner. That is such a beautiful concept for a story. Like that could have been a movie. That would make a great book. Like, I'm just thinking of what a great book it would make. Like, there's so much fun you can have with this concept. I don't know if that's pulled from a comic, but I thought as soon as they set up that story and Ulysses' widow, she starts explaining what is about to happen. The first time I watched it, I was just like, I'm on board for this.
Well, the story is related to a comic. That is a run. There is a run that's similar to that. In fact, Elsa hangs out with some pretty cool people. What they don't tell you, is trained by Blade.
That's right. Isn't she one of the Darkhold Redeemers?
She is one of the Darkhold Redeemers. She's also a Midnight Sun.
Hey, a Midnight
Which is
daughter.
One of my favorite. Has easily become one of my favorite Marvel groups because they are really cool.
So yeah, the lore is all here, and what's beautiful is that they can tie into the lore without needing a single cameo, Ryan. They didn't have to be like, here's Loki, right? They didn't have
I was hoping for a Blade because it was a hunters gathering, and I was really hoping for a Blade cameo. I would really dig that, but you're right. You didn't need it.
Mm-hmm. Especially because all those hunters ended up getting killed. I'm sure. I have a feeling Blade's a good guy. Like, he knows better than to hang out with those people. They seem kind of greedy and self-important. Yeah. But this setup is beautiful. Ulysses' bloodstone in his coffin is. I gotta talk to my funeral home and change and make some new requests because I want that animatronic crypt keeper look to myself when I go. Right. Hello, Ryan. I'll be rotting for you. That is just beautiful. That right there is one of the most fun Marvel moments in recent memory. I love it.
Yeah, honestly, this guy, this is another great thing about Marvel is like they look into people who want, like, they're helping a lot of people grow in the filming industry. A lot of actors who've been in the Marvel biz for a while have now moved up to producers or even directors. And we now have a composer who's essentially never directed a feature film a film on this level before, and just crushes it.
Not only does he crush it, Ryan, but I'm going to put something bold on the table right now. Are you ready? This gave me the best werewolf transformation scene I have ever watched.
Mm.
American Werewolf in London was pretty damn good, but this, I think, blew it out of the water.
Yeah, I gotta say, you know, I love that they did not use CG as much. They used more practical makeup and like effects to get the results that they needed. Like the transformation was just, I was living for every second of that.
That shadow on the wall, man, that is visual storytelling at some of its finest. I'm sure it's a billion times cheaper than CG. And to top it all off, you bring up the makeup. The makeup made me so happy. I don't know if are you a fan of the Universal monster movies? They're not that scary.
I'm a fan. Of course I am.
Yeah. So the makeup artist for those movies was a guy named Jack Pierce. Jack Pierce invented the classic Frankenstein makeup. And to this day, Frankenstein is public domain because the book is like 200 years old. But that makeup, that look is copyright. So Ryan, you could make a Frankenstein movie right now and you wouldn't have to pay anybody rights, but you can't have the monster look like Boris Karloff's monster because that makeup that Jack Pierce did was so iconic. It's a copyrighted image. And Jack Pierce also did the makeup for the Wolfman, Lon Chaney Jr.'s Wolfman movie. And I love that they took that as inspiration for the way Werewolf-By-Night looks. I'm so glad he doesn't just look like a wolf. The idea of getting Gael Garcia Bernal's face and just adapting it into this quasi Chewbacca, but not quite. It's very similar to what they do with Lon Chaney Jr. It works for me, man. This is perfect werewolf stuff. Like, I could not be happier with how the makeup and the transformation and all of it turned out.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Like the aesthetic and tone. I'm a big fan when shows make the effort to do like more practical effects, like because to me, like even Daredevil, like look how fast they turned around Daredevil in terms of seasons and stuff, because like it was mostly practical. It didn't do like barely any CG was in it, and it was perfect. And like I actually, my position is if you can do practical, no matter how difficult it may be, you should do it. Like don't ever default to do like let's do CG. Like don't default that for me. Like if you can do it practical, do it practical. And I'm a big fan of that. And that goes to say I love how they did Man-Thing. Man-Thing looked amazing. And that's a character you could have really cheated with CG, especially on a black and white platform. But if you and at first I was a bit concerned because I was like, man, that could be CG. But they did a group photo of like the set of the crew in the set, and they had a Man-Thing puppet in the background that they had. And I was like, yep, practical. I'm happy.
See, that's so cool. And I remember hearing about that too. I remember hearing they did practical Man-Thing. And honestly, man, I had no idea it was practical. I thought it was CG the whole time.
Yeah.
He was the character I knew the most about going into this. And I'm so happy with how he looked. He looked perfect. Even the way he runs, just the way his body contours. I love the Man-Thing. Mark my words, he's the next Groot. He is going to steal everybody's hearts. He is the next Groot.
I think so. And I know the scene you're talking about that definitely does that for him. And speaking of visual effects, is when they use the stone, that was gorgeous. Like the effects really fit the narrative and theme of the show, and it just made it elevated the whole experience. So when the hunt went down, and they started chasing after the monster that they captured, that I actually thought for probably about a minute that it wasn't Man. I thought Man-Thing was like a monster that like attacks while they're hunting another monster. That's how I saw the show happening. So because like for me right now with trailers, and I do really want to talk about this at some point. We did do a video about trailers. It didn't work out, unfortunately, but we're going to do it again at some point. But I don't like when trailers do this. But when we did the covering of the Marvel stuff, and then we saw the trailer for it, and they had Man-Thing in the trailer. To me, sometimes when you do something that big, you're usually counting the minutes till it happens.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, okay, we're gonna hunt down a monster. I didn't even think it was going to be Man-Thing, but I'm like, I was counting the minutes till I'm like, okay, Man-Thing's gonna come in at some point. When? And then I found out that it's like, and then you find out shortly after it's all about Man-Thing, which was really, to me, it was perfect. Like I was just like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah, and so that was a really cool thing for me, but I was still counting the minutes to that one shot where he comes in through the wall.
Yeah, it can really get in our heads, and we can start doing that, counting the minutes when the trailers show us stuff like that. So I wish I'm glad we didn't see MODOK, even though we know he's coming. But like, I just hope that the Black Panther and the Ant-Man trailers have left out big stuff that we can actually react to in the theater. What did you think, Ryan, of our leading man, of Gael Garcia Bernal as Jack Russell?
I love Jack, actually. Again, this is one of those things where I would have totally interpreted the character differently. He really brought kind of like an average Joe kind of approach to it, to me, where it's like, this guy clearly could lead on that there's more to him, but he's just like, hey, we don't have to do this, you want a coffee or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, I would not have portrayed it that way, but I loved it. It was a fun way to do that character. And again, I think what's really cool is again how Marvel and these actors work together to bring this character to life. And it sounds kind of like, well, duh, Ryan, that's what they do. But if you think about it, like, characters like this bring with them a lot of lore. Like, I'm very curious to see how Namor is going to make the jump from page to the screen, because Namor has had a lot of history, and I mean a lot, to a point where comic book fans are really going to have a perceived notion of what Namor should act like. And it's up to the actor to convince the viewers that this is how the character should be. Now, there are times when you think one way and then the actors do something completely out of left field, and you're more enchanted by that than you are of what you thought the character was. Because remember, is like, it's hard to beat nostalgia. It is extremely hard to beat nostalgia. You look at Wolverine in the animated series. It is impossible to break your perception of that character. Because once they did that, they did this Clint Eastwood talking, character with that Jim Lee aesthetic, then you have now definitively placed in your heart that is Wolverine. Werewolf-By-Night again, I'm sure there are some really big fans out there, not as many as like when you look at Marvel fans. When you look at Marvel fans, they're probably like, yeah, Werewolf-By character, he's a cool character, he's got a couple good stories here and there. But I think the beautiful part of this is like, this actor had such carte blanche to really just bring the approach to the character that it was just really enchanting. It was a wonderful experience.
Enchanting is a great word for it. He really was. He was the perfect, just sort of aloof, likable everyman. Again, really nice parallel with Lawrence Talbot from The Wolfman, because he was the same thing. He was just a super nice everyman who just has this awful curse that he's trying to live with. And I think he did a great job of making Jack likable and making him interesting. He had some great little moments. I think when he's in the cage, he has this moment where he scratches behind his ear the way a dog would. So like he's got these fun little just attributes to him that they threw in. It could have been a very dry character because he's surrounded by all these amazing, fantastic things, all these crazy hunters with all their different looks and personalities. And then you have Man-Thing and you have Elsa, who's such a strong personality. So it would have been so easy for him to be bland until he became a werewolf.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest job they had was to make sure that wasn't the case. And I think he totally rocked it.
Well, I think the other thing too is that, leading up to the cage, they almost make you forget that this is a guy who can turn into a werewolf. And they do a good job of that. Like, to me, I'm like, man, like when I'm like, how are they gonna make it like turn? Because like he even admits, it's like, oh yeah, it's not a full moon for a while now, and she's like, oh man, the gem can simulate a full moon. And he's like, oh crap. But like you're right, like the little manners, like him sniffing her, like going around, like getting all her scent because he's like, I need to memorize her scent. Like all that stuff, like the turnaround was really good. It kind of reminded me of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but like Mr. Hyde is just like your everyday, Jim coming into Starbucks getting a coffee kind of person. You know what I mean? Like, just a super nice guy. But like I think you're right. Like that character could have easily been very boring, and then the werewolf takes over and then really kind of, sets the bar kind of thing. But the performance sets such a bar that the raising the stakes, if you will, like when he transforms into the werewolf, that was really cool.
Yeah. So I'm what a great new character to introduce. I hope we see more of them. Now I have a deep lore question for you. Actually, wait, does this count as a deep lore question? I don't know. It's just a crazy question that's just going to make you think deeply about how the Marvel Cinematic Universe works. You ready? If anybody can answer it, it's you. If you don't have an answer, I give up. Here we go. Do you think when who was it? When Moon Knight or whoever or his friend there spun the sky around to look at something? Do you think that messed with Jack Russell and he kept transforming on and off? Yeah,
100%. Oh yeah, 100%.
That's terrifying.
You're thinking about Khonshu.
Khonshu, thank you. His name was totally escaping my mind. He doesn't want me to remember.
Yes, no, absolutely. In answer to your question, 100%, that it would have messed him up. I don't know if he would have fully transformed, but he would have felt the pain of transforming because of the moons being played around with.
Interesting. So,
excuse me. Yeah.
I hope that that's something. Next time we see Werewolf-By-Night, I hope that's something he just mentions, that he just brings up, because it'll be nice to start seeing these big things that have happened in Phase 4. The ramifications of them. There's still a giant man in the Pacific Ocean, and everybody who was outside that night probably got a seizure if they looked up at the stars. So I just like to see some of the consequences of those things, and Werewolf-By-Night is a great way to work that in. Just to be like, oh, man, the other a couple months ago, I hurt somebody by accident because I was the sky was being spun around and what have you. They could even work it in. Maybe that's how Man-Thing got captured by these hunters. Because he's usually hanging out with Jack, but that night Jack got messed up by the sky. He wasn't prepared for it, and Man-Thing kind of got lost and wandered on his own and got captured.
Exactly. And yeah, 100%. And so it was such a fun way to do the character. It was a really and I have to use the word enchanting because you again, it was that chance to change the perception of the character. And when Marvel can take what I would say is like a C or B listing character and transform it into like a really popular character, which I do think he probably got some popularity points for that. Then Marvel has done their job. I mean, like I said with Iron Man, like no one thought RDJ could do it. Nobody thought he could do it. And then you saw his performance and you're like, well, this is now the only way to do Iron Man at this point.
Yeah, that's it. Now,
also, I did like Elsa Bloodstone too, because again, this is a character who can get mixed up with a lot of other characters, i.e. Buffy. But she kind of was like I kind of like the 40s spin. Like the black and white tone made her kind of seem more like a like Marilyn Monroe with a gun kind of thing. It's just kind of the kind of time period really kind of made her character a bit more I don't know what the word is, more of a femme fatale kind of feel to her as opposed to like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like in terms of like high school approach. Like she kind of seemed like as opposed to going to high school and fighting vampires, she came back from college and like she's seen some stuff.
Yeah, she's been off seeing things. Who knows who she trained with?
Mm-hmm. It made her more classy. It made her more of a classy character.
Yes, and there was just an aura of class around this whole thing because of how timeless it was. Even though, like you told Kicking Air, it does take place today here in the middle of the MCU where we are now, but the setting that we're in is this old Gothic mansion. You only get hints of the modern era from the design of some of the parts of the labyrinth and of the mausoleum that they get locked in. Those are very harsh, angular, modern designs to it. And obviously at the end, we see the two of them hanging out together, camping, playing solitaire, talking about eating sushi. Newsflash, people outside of Japan were not eating sushi in the 1800s, so this is clearly a modern setting. But this, the idea of setting it in that mansion and giving it that feel, that old Gothic creepy feel, which I love when it comes to the horror stuff, it just served to make Werewolf-By-Night timeless. And it's nice because not a lot of the MCU stuff is timeless because it is trying to be very timely. Hell, that was Marvel's name before it became Marvel. It was timely comic.
And I'm about to blow your mind too about another reason why it was black and white, because the black and white transition to color at the end, which is your Wizard of Oz kind of thing. And I think Wizard of Oz did the same storytelling technique. The reason why it was black and white was because of the times that they were in, because everything was black and white. You're a hunter or you're a monster. And then when Elsa gets the stone and everything's all said and done and everything turns to color, that's exactly what happens, because now she sees things as not everything is black and white. Everything's kind of shades of gray and like all sorts of colors, right? So that's how she perceives it. So that's why there is that transition the second she has the stone, and that was on purpose. That was actually the director's choice to do that. But that's the reason why it was the way it was.
That's perfect. That was a great way to show that without actually saying it. She is going to change things. She's going to change the way the monsters and hunters deal with each other. I wish we had other monsters that we knew already to see, how it would affect them. So I think it's probably a safe bet that we're going to see Elsa pop up in Blade. I think it's
a safe bet. I mean, again, their stories are pretty well entwined, so I would not be surprised if she runs, because not only that, like she would run into Moon Knight, she would run into Ghost Rider. She's been seen around a lot. So
somebody's been training her, so she's been like she knows people. I'm sure she knows people we've already met.
Yeah.
So if you were putting money down right now, where do you think we will next see Jack and Man-Thing?
Man-Thing, I would argue that you're probably going to see Man-Thing a lot sooner than you're going to see Jack. I don't think you're going to see Jack at any time soon, to be honest with you. I mean, you could see Jack in where if this whole supernatural side of Marvel continues to expand, which I think they should. I feel like this movie was kind of like Guardians of the... I don't know why my camera's doing this, by the way. I gotta fix that.
I thought you were just at a rave.
No, I think it's trying to be a smart cam where if I'm like turned a certain way, it changes the lighting. Anyway, I think that this movie is kind of like Guardians in the sense that it opens the doors for this area of storytelling. But to be honest, outside of Blade, I don't know other stories that we're going to get where we're going to get more of these characters exposed. And Nathan agrees. Is like I think Nathan's saying I think we'll at least see one of them in Blade. I think you'll see Man-Thing a lot sooner than you will see Jack. Blade, you'll probably see Elsa Bloodstone for sure. But Jack is such a isolated character that you may see them in Blade, but it's too hard to say. It's because Blade is very much around vampires, and Elsa Bloodstone has done vampire hunting, but Jack is not someone I would say just like is gonna jump in front of a vampire and be like, no, don't shoot it. Like I don't see that same storytelling happening. It all depends on what's next in the supernatural world that's going to determine whether or not we're going to see Werewolf. But Man-Thing, because of Agatha, the Coven of Chaos or whatever they're going to call it, and this whole multiverse saga, there is such a high chance that we could run it into Man-Thing during Ant-Man Quantumania, like just because it's that possible.
That's true. And Man-Thing, like I said, he's stolen everybody's heart. He is going to be the next Groot. So they want to strike while the iron is hot. They want to throw him in there. I always keep forgetting about Agatha Coven of Chaos, but yeah, that's a great place to put Man-Thing too. Maybe, maybe not Jack, because I feel like that show is going to take place in the past.
But see, that's what I mean, right? Like Jack's a very cautious choice. Like you have to you can't just throw him in anywhere. He has to have a very specific reason. Difference is with Man-Thing. Man-Thing's a multi-dimensional being. So Man-Thing can go anywhere and not have little to no context, i.e. Werewolf-By-Night, where you just throw this character in and don't need much explanation for that.
What about in the movie that I know you're the most excited for, Morbius 2, Morbin Time?
Oh God, that stupid movie. God, it's funny too. We've been playing this wonderful Marvel game.
Marvel Snap.
Marvel Snap. Oh snap! And I got Morbius as a card, and just like at first I was excited because like Morbius in the comics is like giggity. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I mean, I heard it's good. Don't get me wrong. Like I heard Jared Leto is kind of an interesting Morbius, but at the same time, I could care less. Here's the thing. Actually, I do want to say one more thing about the Man-Thing and werewolf appearances. They could appear together. That could happen. That could very well happen. But I'm just saying, in terms of the likelihood of one appearing over the other, Man-Thing will probably appear much quicker than the other ones. Or sorry, than Werewolf. So yeah, so there's that. What was I talking about? I was all over the place for a second there.
You went from Snap to Man-Thing.
Morbius. Oh, you were saying Morbius. But that's the thing. We don't know much more about the supernatural world outside of Blade. Right. We could get lucky with Daredevil, but Daredevil's not really a Midnight Suns type of character. He doesn't really roll with a lot of hunters. He's helped them for sure, but he's he's not. It's weird. It's weird. Actually, you know who where you're going to see Man-Thing as well is What If.
Oh, 100%. He's showing up in What If. He'd be super easy to throw in there. There's one more possibility that's kind of like a bench warmer possibility for now, but it seems like this show is going to delve more and more into the realms of magic, and that's Ironheart. Because we've been hearing some whispers about Ironheart.
That's right. Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe Mephisto confirmed. According to
literally.
Rumors. Yeah. According to rumors, allegedly, Borat is Mephisto, which is a very nice prospect. So if that's the case, there's room for some supernatural things in there. We did hear, I feel like ages ago, that show was going to tackle with the idea of technology versus magic. So that could play a part. I think a Jack appearance in there might be plausible. It might work. I mean, the shows have been... She-Hulk showed us how many cameos you can throw into a show. He might end up in there. But let's figure it out this way, Ryan. Who would you most like to see Werewolf-By-Night fight that would actually put up a fight against him?
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight can take him?
Well, Moon Knight can take him, but it's fun. It would be a good comic book reference / fun to watch because like those two have a good bout.
I like that, man. I think that's a great place for him too, to show up with Moon Knight. I was thinking way too far ahead for me. I was thinking I would like to see him fight Sabretooth, who better be coming, and he better be blonde for God's sake. We know the mutants are we still gotta wait for their movie, but just because we gotta wait for their movie doesn't mean we gotta wait for them. There's 20 million and 14 mutants. Give us 4 somewhere. Yeah. So
well, we don't know what phase 6. Was it Phase 6 with the Phase 6 is the 2 Secret Wars in Kang Dynasty, right?
And Fantastic Four.
And Fantastic Four. So within that phase, there are 4 to 5 projects that have not been announced yet. So we got plenty of X-Men related content that could fit in that little area there.
Well, that might. It looks like that's likely where Deadpool 3 is going to fall. That's my theory.
Yeah, I gathered.
Yeah, it looks like that's where that's going to fall. But yeah, I love the idea of Jack Russell meeting. I think that.
But speaking of Man-Thing, Man-Thing's an interesting character. Man-Thing actually, my brother has been praising the day that they would have a Man-Thing appear in Marvel in some way, shape, or form. And did he get it? Did he get exactly what he wanted? And it's funny because the last time we heard Man-Thing mentioned was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I think it was season 2. They actually mentioned it once, and it's I'll never forget it. There's a scene with Agent Hill, and she's walking down the street, coming out of working with Stark, and she's like, "Oh man, Stark's HR, they're interrogators. They're asking me all these questions about S.H.I.E.L.D. And like, what is this? What is that? What's a Man-Thing?" And that's literally all you get. It's classic Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. move. But like, yeah, it was literally just like a small tease. But Man-Thing's an interesting character. Now, I've mentioned this once in a long, long time ago in our Infinity rewatch. Man-Thing is a result of the Super Soldier Serum. So when you look at Project Rebirth, that created Captain America, that was obviously the Allies' attempt at, creating a weapon that could fight off, evil and essentially win the war. That was their goal. They obviously did it to such perfection that someone sabotages it, and then ever since that sabotage, they've been trying to recreate Captain America, or recreate essentially something that will help the world, like essentially that be the one solution that fixes it. And there's so many wars and stuff, so people try different things. So Weapon 1 is Project Rebirth that created Captain America. Weapon 2 was when essentially the High Evolutionary created animal weapons, thus creating Rocket Raccoon. Not just the High Evolutionary, but like the world started looking into animals and creating animals as weapons. Right. Then Weapon 3 was originally set to be on animals again, but they ended up working on humans again during the Cold War. And they created kind of like off versions of mutants. Essentially, they're not mutants per se, but they're off versions of mutants.
They're mutant.
Yeah, something mutant-ish kind of thing. Weapon 4 was they started working on the environment, i.e., a swamp, and the scientist who led it was the scientist who ended up becoming Man-Thing. So Man-Thing is a result of the Captain America kind of recreation of the Super Soldier Serum. Man-Thing, actually, the way it works was he fell in love with a woman, and this woman gets tied up with some gangsters, and she ends up running into the swamp, and then Ted gets mixed up in the whole thing, and they end up killing him to get to her, and he falls into the swamp, and the swamp mutates him into Man-Thing.
And that is further proof that we need to see Man-Thing fight the DC Comics character, Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Very similar. Swamp Thing is actually one of the most powerful creatures in the DC universe, too. So they match up like peanut butter and jelly. Make that happen, Dwayne Johnson. That's what we want to see.
So Weapon 6, by the way, is when Luke Cage gets his powers. He's actually a product of the same Super Soldier stuff. And then fast forward to Weapon 10, better known as Weapon X, who creates Wolverine. Schnicky, schnicky, schnoy.
Schnicky, schnicky, schnoy. Why isn't that Wolverine's catchphrase?
Yeah.
He said that more often.
Actually, I hate Wolverine's actual catchphrase, which is, oh my god, I hear it all the time, and I just cringe.
Is it that stupid thing about like I'm the best there is at what I do?
Yeah, I'm the best at it. I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice. I just like, oh, come on.
I much prefer schnicky schnicky schnorry.
Yeah, or like just let's go, bub. Like that's like my favorite. Like that's all you need to say.
When Hugh Jackman said bub in X-Men 2, people must have went nuts.
I don't think you could have introduced. I don't think you could have introduced Wolverine any cooler than in a cage match where he's bar fighting 90% of the time. I don't think you could have done it better. I don't.
Pretty sure that's just what he does when he's not an X-Man.
So exactly.
I think it's time for us to rate this show, or rather this special.
Let's do it.
Werewolf-By-Night on a scale of 0 Infinity Stones to 6 Infinity Stones, and maybe even an Infinity Gauntlet if it's just that good. How many blood stones are you giving Werewolf-By-Night? You want me to start?
You start.
Okay. I think what I have settled on is I am giving Werewolf-By-Night 6 stones.
I guessed it! Oh my god. While you were looking at your phone, I went like this. I went.
Ryan's a psychic. He's a monster. Hunt him.
Oh my god.
I think that it's like I really don't have any complaints except that it's over so fast. That's pretty much it. Like it's just a great story. It introduces a lot of characters that could have very easily been planned, but they weren't. It introduces Man-Thing, who I liked for years, so I'm so happy to see him. It's just an all-around fun special. And I think the more we become familiar with what a Marvel special is, that might change this 6-stone rating. It might make it go up for me, it might make it go down for me. I don't know. The baseline is still a slippery slope for specials. But right now, just as this thing that Marvel made that's tied into the MCU, that is a Halloween event, I give it 6 stones. I just had a lot of fun.
I actually also give it 6, a heavily debated 6, because I would love to say Gauntlet, but I want more. And that's not a bad thing. I just want more. It's kind of like the ultimate appetizer before a meal, right? You know what I mean? Like, when you eat a really good appetizer and you're like, man, that was so good. I can't wait for the meal. In this case, the meal is not coming. It's like you just literally had a really good appetizer. But that's not a bad thing. It was such a great show. And the Wizard of Oz touch at the end was chef's kiss. But I just want more, and I know I'm not getting it. And I can't give it a Gauntlet only because I just want to see more from it.
That's a great way to put it. It is an appetizer without a meal to come. And I think hindsight is going to, again, it's going to make us change how we feel, because at some point when we see all these characters again and we have a better understanding of them, by the end of Phase 6, maybe we've gotten to know them more, then we can look back at Werewolf-By-Night and say, now that we know who Elsa is, who Man-Thing is, who Jack is, did this do a good job of introducing those characters to us? With the hindsight that we have? And that might change our vote. But in the meantime, yeah, I think a solid 6 stones is a perfect score for something like this. I am rotting for this to work.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Ryan, what was your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh man, you're really going down memory lane for me here. The one that's coming to mind the quick. Oh, I know what it is. Coca-Cola candies.
Coca-Cola candies? What is this?
There's a trick though. I only loved the really big ones. They're gummies in the shape of giant Coca-Cola bottles.
Oh, yeah. And
they are so delicious.
In fact, they made the fruit snacks called Soda, which is, do you remember those?
I do. And here's the thing. The only way to get these Coca-Cola bottles now if you're lucky to find them, they're at like random bulk farms, and that's the only place you can get them.
Wow, that's it, huh?
Yep.
How would you get them on Halloween? Like, would they be in?
They used to be more available when I was a kid, and people. I mean, okay. The reason why I love them for Halloween was because people would give you a pack of the little ones. But I love the taste of not only of the little ones, but then I used to get the big ones on Halloween as well. Just like family members would come in and just say, "Hey, here's your candy," and then they would give me a giant Coca-Cola bottle. But sometimes if you went to like house to house, you would find like people give you a little pack of the mini ones.
And they just came in like a package, like
yeah, they came in like a package that you'd open and then you would.
Wow, I've never seen them in those. You lived in a cooler neighborhood than any of the ones I know.
What about you, sir? What is yours candy choice?
I think I would say, even though when I was a kid, there were not as many options as there are now for it, I would say anything Reese's peanut butter. That is, I actually just bought this year I found at Shoppers Drug Mart, they had these Reese's things. They're individually wrapped, so they're perfect to give out. And they're bats, pumpkins, and ghosts. And it's just, imagine like a peanut butter cup, but it's just a thick ghost-shaped thing. And you just pop the whole thing in your mouth, and it's just a giant smorgasbord of peanut butter flavor. And I used to hate getting those little, what do you call them, little toffees, the little orange and yellow Halloween, like those, they were only at Halloween. Remember those? I never touched them. Never.
I hated them. I hated them. That, for me, it was those and coffee crisps. I hated them.
You hated coffee crisps? Really?
I don't drink coffee. I don't like the taste of it.
Ah, so that's why. So it's just like, ew, this tastes like that stuff I don't like.
There was that. Okay, there was those two, and then I hated when people gave me like off-brand potato chips that tasted just like regular potato chips.
Like, it's like you get like a weird little bag that you've never seen before. It's called like Joe's Chips, and you're like, what the hell? Yeah. What kind of chips did you make, Joe? Right?
I mean, I'm sure that's it's just easier. It's a bit more budget friendly, but yeah, no.
Yeah.
Those three things, those weird orange little yellow top things, the little triangles, those things are nasty as hell.
The candy corn?
Yeah, the candy corn, God. And coffee crisps. I just couldn't do it. Everything else, Smarties, Kit Kats, Rocket candies, love those.
Rockets are great. I feel like now because so many more kids are allergic to peanuts, like it's become such a thing now that it wasn't as big when we were kids. Now everybody, just to be safe, I feel like everybody just buys that really boring box where it's like there's Smarties, Kit Kat, Coffee Crisp, and Arrow because they're all peanut free, and it's like those things used to be cool when you get them when we were trick or treating, but now it's like they're just the standard. They're like the most plain as plain can get. That when you get them, you're like, oh, it's got the plain chocolate.
Exactly.
They need to start coming out with like some crazy candies that only come out during Halloween that can really give the kids some memories that they can talk about for years to come.
100%.
Remember they had, you haven't seen them anymore, they had, I think, Lifesavers lollipops.
Yes.
Remember those? Yeah, those were a big deal. They were bigger than the normal lollipops, and they were nicer. They tasted nicer. So it's like you look at the little crappy little yellow one that was just like on a stick, and like, move over. I got a big one. Or like Jolly Rancher made lollipops too. Like those.
What was the hidden treasure candy that you got? Like one house gave you something that no one else gave you, and you were just like, what the hell?
That's a great question. I feel like there was a chocolate bar that I had never seen before, and it was like I think it was Crackle, because you don't find Crackle bars that often. Somebody gave me one of those little Crackle bars, and I was so just intrigued by this chocolate bar that I didn't even want to eat it for the longest time. I'm just like, man, where did this come from? I've never seen this before. If I eat it, it's gone. I'm never going to find it again. But one person gave me a bag of chips, just a small bag of chips, I can't remember what the brand was, but it must have been recycled plastic that they used to make the bag of chips. When I opened it, on the inside, instead of being silver, it was the design of another different bag of chips. And
what?
It blew my mind. And I finished the chips and I cut the thing open. I was looking at it and I'm like, I've never seen this before. And I've never seen it since. What did you find? What treasures did you find?
There was two. There was someone would give me a fruit by the foot. Don't know how. Don't know why. I don't know how they'd afforded giving that many away to kids, but man, whoever did, they were living a good life, because I was shocked when I saw fruit by the foot in my candy bag. And the other one was Hubba Bubba gum tape.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There's always I feel like when you dump the bag at the end of the night, there's always one thing that stood out.
There's always a one hidden treat that you're just like, what the hell?
Oh, I miss trick-or-treating so much, man. I wish we could do it again.
It's not the same.
I'm going to go this year. I don't care. I'm going to go knock on that door. You might see me get arrested on the news, but I don't care. I'm going trick-or-treating.
If you get one candy out of it, it'll be worth it.
Exactly. And if anybody's giving out those Reese Ghosts, we're talking. Yeah, that's the stuff. So, Werewolf-By-Night, 6 stones all around. Good stuff. We got another special coming in a month. We got Black Panther coming in a couple weeks.
We got Black Panther coming in 2 weeks.
2 whole weeks away from Namor and his friends coming to Wakanda for a totally friendly chat and some tea, and nothing else is going to happen. Namor's just going to have tea with Ramonda. He'd be like, I'm from the water. She's going to be like, I'm from Wakanda and we have rain in here. She'd be like, cool. And they're not going to fight at all. And it's just 2 hours of that, and I will be satisfied.
Just remember that Namor may not be the main villain.
That's true. I mean, if we're getting a Tuma, we know a Tuma's bad news. So, but I'm glad we got to do a Halloween special before that. I think the timing for it all worked out perfectly. And I hope you have a happy Halloween, right? Do you have any plans? What are you going to do on Halloween?
There's a dog costume party that's going on in our area, and we got Cabbage a Chucky costume that we are giving him. It's gonna be pretty funny. He hates it. The second you put on the wig, he hates it.
Please send me a picture of him dressed as Chucky.
I will. I definitely will.
Oh,
what about you, sir?
Originally, I was going to be working on Halloween because it falls on a Monday night. But a lot of the kids, obviously, they're trick-or-treating. And I have younger kids that night, so they don't want to go to acting class and they do trick-or-treating. Totally get it. So I think the night's been canceled at work. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably just going to walk around and just take in the sights and sounds and smells of Halloween. If I can't trick-or-treat, I can at least watch other people have fun and trick-or-treat and enjoy myself that way. Maybe I'll just bring candy with me and walk around.
You should. I think you should. That sounds actually really nice.
Yeah, just taking in the beautiful autumn nights before the cold snap takes over next month. But that has been our Infinity Rewatch Halloween special. Did I get you? I got you a little bit. I think I almost got you. Ryan, where can the people find you when you are not scaring the crap out of them or watching Paranormal Activity 2?
As always, you can find me on twitch.tv/Xbox Canada, streaming the latest and greatest games on 12:30 to 2:30. And then you can also find me on Instagram at Ryan J. Whitehead, and you can find me on Twitter at Crusader Online.
And I will also be there on Twitter and Instagram at Andrew Fantasia. And you can't find me on Twitch because I don't do the Twitch, but you can probably find me walking around on Halloween night somewhere, begging strangers for candy. Maybe I'm carrying a jack-o'-lantern. Maybe I'm eating a crackle bar and wondering where the hell I can find more of them. But I promise I'm not a werewolf. So you can approach me and say hello. I will not bite you or transform. I'm usually friendly on Halloween, especially if I have candy. Anyway, that has been Infinity Rewatch's Halloween special. We'll see you all next time. Until then, everybody have a very scary and marvelous day.